start whenever you want to start.
Whenever we want to start. Hi, everybody. It's Ron Bass with another edition of the Ron Bass Show, your source for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, funny stories, breaking news.
Wow.
All kinds of good stuff.
You're
we are
glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here. I just came from the gym, so I've got all these endorphins floating around, I guess, in my brain right now. High on endorphins. That's the best way to be, though. Versus drugs.
Yes.
I read a story about marijuana this week. They said that, maybe we talked about it, probably talk about it all the time, but they say now that it definitely has an effect on the cognitive skills, and they say it's permanent. So even if you quit, the damage is done permanently. I thought that was really depressing, because I've got a lot of friends who smoke marijuana. It's sad, really. But on the other hand, I guess they get some enjoyment out of it, so maybe they can rationalize it.
Did you say that it's permanent brain, or is it lungs?
Permanently damages their cognitive skills.
Okay.
Their ability to
Got it.
have cognitive.
Yes, I heard you.
Yeah, cognitive skills.
Whatever that word
Which is important when you're a deep thinker, when you're trying to solve problems, when you're just, in general, you need to be able to have good thinking skills, right? But I don't want to dwell on that today, guys. I don't want to be like the bearer of bad news or anything. I've read another article, speaking of bad news, I read another article about vaping. Oh my God. Like every week there's a new story out now how it's causing this problem and that problem. You got to remember back in the day, that was like the solution for smoking cigarettes, right? And so everybody bought into that was smoking cigarettes. But now it's like one horror story after another, after another, after another, after another. Man, when I quit smoking, I know I've said it before, I just quit smoking. And I suffered. But not forever, a few months. And it wasn't like the world was coming to an end. But all my friends, when they quit smoking, they all got to take the patch, which I'd rather them do the patch as smoke. They take lozenges, which I'd rather them do that as smoke. But how about just like accepting the responsibility that you've made a mistake, and to correct the mistake, you have to go through some pain. Plus, when you go through that pain, guess what? It's a big reminder that you shouldn't do that again, and it allows you to be the person to encourage other people not to do it as well, right? You got to be the leader of the pack sometimes. Okay, well, like I said, I don't want to preach, but just wanted to get that out there. Today we're going to talk about self. There's a lot of selves to talk about.
There's only two selves here.
Oh, that's true.
But there's lots of selves out there.
There are a lot of topics, a lot of self-topics. Self-worth, self-respect, self-image, self-esteem, self-reflection, self-confidence, self-talk. So we're going to kind of break it down. We've done a little bit of this before. I've added a few more selves this time. There's probably some more selves. Let's just talk about, let's start at the bottom of the list, self-talk. And I speak from experience, guys. You know that. So when I talk about things on the podcast, it's what's helped me in my life, what continues to help me every day. I was talking to one of our students last night in their martial arts class, and he was like, man, it's really tough. I'm trying to lose this weight and this and that. And I said, look, I get it. All day, every day, I'll think about things that are uncomfortable. And I have to always remind myself through self-talk, talk to myself, that it's not going to be easy. So when you don't feel comfortable about something and you're not happy with something, it's par for the course. It's okay. Par for the course, that's a good one. That must be from the golfing.
Golfing.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
Mm-hmm.
So simple definition, it's normal.
Mm-hmm. It's not in my golf game.
I've never played a game of golf.
I'd like to get par all the time.
You would. Speaking of sports, my coach last night and I were talking. He was a big pinball guy when he was a kid. I said, man, I used to play pinball all the time. So he's challenged me now to a pinball tournament, or a pinball game anyway. I said, okay, you're on. Ping pong. Oh yeah, let's play ping pong. Tennis. I was okay at tennis, but ping pong I got pretty good at. So look, par for the course. Self-talk. You have to remind yourself, first of all, why is it important? because nobody else is going to talk to you the way you're going to talk to yourself. You have to be your own advocate, guys. You have to remind yourself through self-talk. You don't have to talk out loud. Sometimes I do talk out loud if nobody's around. Otherwise, they might think I'm a little bit, off my rocker. I wonder where that came from, off my rocker.
You fell off your chair.
Is that what it is? Brent and I have this weird thing going all the time where we say these phrases and then we have to stop and analyze, like, where did those phrases come from? How did they originate? Speaking of that, I have a note in here about turning over a new leaf. We talked about that at one of our other podcasts, so I looked it up, and it says that turning over a new leaf, that's a piece in a table. They call that a leaf. Leave. So turning over a new leaf means like that's a piece on the table. It's not like a leaf on a L-E-A-F on a tree. It's a L-E-A-V-E.
Yeah, I've got a kitchen table that has a leaf in it.
Yeah.
Make it big, make it small.
Well, we call it leaf, but it's really a leaf. Leaf. It's not quite the same pronunciation. You think it's pronounced the same way?
Spelled differently in another.
Pronounced the same way?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Wanted to throw that in there. Throw that out there. Okay, so back to self-talk. It's a great tool, guys, to keep yourself motivated. It's not hard, and it's very effective, because what you're going to find, like going to the gym today, I was sore last night from doing martial arts. I was grappling with a pretty fit young guy, and he gave me a run for my money, but bottom line was I was a little sore this morning. That's fine. So I didn't really want to go to the gym, right? But I reminded myself, self-talk, hey, man, look, Ron, you got to go. Doesn't matter if you're sore. Doesn't matter if you don't want to go. You're going. And that's how I talked to myself. And man, I got in the car and I went. And I didn't talk back to myself either. I just went. I didn't want the consequences of hearing myself talk back to myself. Okay, so you get the idea, guys? It's not complicated. Self-talk. It's a good one. Okay. Once you convince yourself to do these things that are important, being disciplined, being consistent, all the things that you need to do to be successful, guess what? Your accomplishments are going to go up. We talked about this a lot. Once your accomplishments go up, your confidence is going to go up. That's the formula for confidence, is accomplishment. People can say what they want. You can analyze it all day long. Go to a psychologist, read about it, but the reality is, when you do something that is difficult and you can accomplish that, your confidence in yourself goes way up. It's just the way the brain works. I don't make these things up. I just understand them and I like to explain them. Okay, maybe there's some ifs, ands, and buts about that. Maybe that's not exactly 100%, but I guarantee it's in the neighborhood. And when your confidence goes up, man, everything goes up. Your money goes up. Your popularity goes up. Your ability to accomplish more things goes up. Now, I say that to say this. That doesn't mean you're not going to have problems and all of a sudden now you've got something else you got to deal with that's not comfortable. Because life's like this, man. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up. I don't care who you are. One of the greatest examples, and you don't have to like the guy, but to me, one of the greatest examples of not giving up and overcoming adversity is President Trump. This guy, I mean, I've been studying this guy for 30 or 40 years. And a lot of young people out there, they're not going to know his whole story. Yes, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had money. He was given money by his father who was wealthy. But then he just about lost all of it back in the 90s. Barely survived. I mean, like, barely. Came back, built his wealth back up. As you know, he ran for president. Man, they tried to impeach him twice. They threw everything at him at the kitchen sink. He survived all that. He lost the election when he ran for election again. Never missed a step. Went right back out on the campaign trail. I mean, immediately. Like, he wasn't going to wait a month or a week. He went back on the campaign trail. For 4 years, they tried to kill him twice. Survived that. And he won the presidency again. It's an amazing It's an amazing testament to not giving up. This guy doesn't, and look, you don't have to like him. A lot of people hate him, but I'm not looking at it from that perspective. I'm looking at it from the idea that if you can hang in there and not quit, eventually something good is going to happen. And I just think he's a great inspiration for the people that understand what I'm saying. Okay, want to throw that out there. Self-reflection. Why is that important? Well, you have to analyze yourself a little bit. Like, hey man, what's going on with my life? Why all of a sudden are people not wanting to spend time with me? What? Maybe you're being a little bit too difficult, a little bit too angry, a bit too cuckoo, a little bit too demanding. Sometimes you got to reflect what's going on, and then you got to work on correcting, because you don't want to be that guy. You want to be somebody that's popular with people. You want to be somebody that people want to be around. Now, not everybody wants to be your friend, I get it, but you have to set the pace. When you're in a leadership role, which you need to learn how to become a leader, because that's very important, to be able to lead your children and lead your employees and lead your friends down the path that takes them to good things. Don't want to set a bad example. I've got a lot of friends that are setting a bad example, in my opinion. They're drinking, they're smoking, they're not working, their work ethic isn't very good. They're not working out. These are things that you have to think about if you really want to be a successful person. Okay, I get it, not everybody wants to be that person, but you should want to aspire to become that person, because it's important as you go through life, particularly if you have children. Set the pace. They're going to follow that leader. All the kids are going to follow their parents, pretty much. They smoke, you smoke. They do pot, you're going to do pot. They drink, you're going to drink. I know in my case that was what happened with me. My father, he drank, he smoked. I drank, I smoked. Fortunately, I didn't have the alcohol problem, but I had a big smoking problem. We talked about that. Self-reflection. Self-esteem. Where does that come from? That comes from feeling good about yourself. That comes from accomplishment. That comes from making good decisions. That comes from having good ethics. Self-esteem. Feeling good about yourself. Self-image. Kind of like the self-reflection thing. Where does that come from? You have to think highly of yourself. If you don't, other people certainly are not going to. So self-image is a really big deal. You have to look into yourself, look at yourself, and bring yourself up. You can't settle for less if you're a success-driven person. You have to always be setting the goal higher. So you reach a goal, set another goal. You reach a goal, set another goal. You reach a goal, set another goal. They don't have to be big goals, guys. I'm not trying to like beat you over the head and say you got to be a billionaire. You got to be, president of the United States. I mean, set small goals first, and as you get more successful at accomplishing them, guess what? You can set bigger and bigger and bigger goals. I always set two goals. I've told you this before. I set a financial goal and I set a personal goal. Personal goal is like a martial arts goal that I have for a particular promotion. Financial goal might be that I want my business to be able to generate X amount of more dollars each year. Or I want to start a new business, etc. You get the idea. Self-respect. Man, this is probably the most important one. We talked about it a little bit last week, but you can't allow people to disrespect you. If you do, it will erode your self-image, your self-esteem, your self-respect. Your self-respect is really all you really have in life that you can carry with you. And nobody can take that away from you. And to have a high sense of self-respect, you have to respect yourself. You have to do all the right things in your life, knowing that this is going to make your life better. And if you don't do that, I just realized my microphone.
Nor did I.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, well, it's not a big deal. They get tired of hearing us anyway, probably. So self-respect, guys. Don't let somebody do something to you and let them get away with it. You can't, look, I've got a situation right now in my life somebody I've known for quite a while, that all of a sudden decided to disrespect me. And I cannot accept that. So I have cut that person out of my life. And I've analyzed a little bit, like, why would that person do that? I didn't do anything that should have caused that. But people are who they are. Sometimes there's mental illness. Sometimes people are offended by something that you might have said that was in jest. Sometimes somebody might have said something to that person that was not true, or maybe you said something to somebody else and maybe they felt like that was incompetence and they took offense to that. But for whatever reason, if it's unfounded and and that wasn't something that they should have done, you cannot accept that. You have to not associate with people that are going to disrespect you. Period. And it's hard because maybe it's a wife, maybe it's a husband, maybe it's a son or a daughter, maybe it's the best, maybe it's your boss. You cannot accept it. You have to hit it head on and deal with it. And if they want to apologize and you think they're sincere, you've made your point, then you've made your point. They know not to mess with you because that's not the way it works, guys. Self-respect is everything. And then the last one is self-worth. Your self-worth is based on all of this. Your self-worth is going to be really low if you don't have self-respect, if you don't have a high self-esteem, if you don't have a strong self-image. So all these things kind of go hand in glove. Very, very important to think about this, reflect on this. In fact, if you're listening to the podcast, record it and listen to these points over and over again, because I tell you, if you'll do that and you'll really pay attention to what I've said about this, about self, it will really, really help you and shape your life in a much more productive and successful way. All right. One more thing and we'll go to some breaking news. One of our subscribers sent me a message, something along these lines. Hey, I think that animals are a whole lot better to be around than humans because they're not like humans that are mean to me. Animals are nice to me. And I thought a lot about that. You know, it's probably true. It shouldn't be like that, but it is just the way it is, man. People can be very, very mean, very vicious. And that's why you have to be very, very strong as a person to handle these things when they come your way. You can't let somebody else's actions or words screw it up for you. And man, they will try to do it for a whole lot of reasons. You cannot accept that. Cannot accept that. Okay. Breaking news.
Before I get to that.
Yes. There's one more story, but we'll do that later.
Yeah.
Or you tell the story.
No, I don't have all the information.
Okay.
I can't remember it all.
I'll tell the story.
You probably know more about it, but I just wanted to make a point. Yes, I agree with that. Dogs and cats especially, there's no drama. They're just happy to see you. They just want to eat and have a place of shelter. And I guess if you owned a Siberian tiger, there might be some drama there, but otherwise, most pets, you're exactly right.
There are some exceptions, like some dogs have killed children, maimed adults. What was the ape that maimed the one woman that took her eyeball and caused her to be blind? There's some. You know from the very beginning that if that's a high risk animal to cause injury. Well, then why would that parent allow that animal to be with that baby, that child that killed that child?
Well, that's
very poor judgment.
Yeah, bad decisions.
I would never take that risk.
Yeah.
A puppy's one thing,
but
just saying.
But in general, dogs and cats though are very very loving. They don't talk back. They like you for who you are, no matter how
fair enough
how you are. But yes, let's talk about the never give up story that we talked about earlier.
The never give up story. So there was this gal that was kind of like born into poverty, and she, at any rate, she was a what did she do for a living? Like originally, what was her goal originally?
I don't remember.
I think her goal originally was to write screenplays. I think it was something along those lines. She wanted to be involved in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And she kept running into one brick wall after the other. She got married. She got divorced. She was very depressed. She was suicidal at one point. She was on welfare. I remember that. She kept getting rejected over and over again by publishers. And I think she was like in her 30s or 40s before she finally was, after like 100 tries, maybe 200 or 300 tries, trying to get something that one of her manuscripts published. She finally was accepted and got a deal. And the rest of the story is that's the lady that wrote Harry Potter. And I can't think of her name, but she's from Europe, I think from England.
Mm-hmm.
So the moral of the story is you go through all these trials and tribulations and all these rejections. And in the end, if you don't give up, like we always say, the stars will eventually line up. Now, she could have given up, just like the Donald Trump story, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I was reading a story about Jeff Bezos with Amazon. He was at a point where he needed $1 million in the beginning of his building his company, and he couldn't get the money. He had to meet with over, I think it was 60 people, and in the end, what happened was 20 of those people gave him $50,000 apiece. So he approximately raised $1 million. He had to give away 20% of his company to get that money. Of course, in the end, that 20% represented billions of dollars for those people. But this is back in the mid-90s when people were saying, Internet? What's the Internet? And he lost money for years. Same thing with Elon Musk with Tesla. He lost money for years and years and years. He's only been making money at the Tesla company for the last 4 or 5 years out of like almost 20 years of being in business. So, and he was going to give up the company. We talked about that. He was going to sell it to Google. And they actually agreed to buy it. He changed his mind, and the rest is history. But he was borrowing money to live. He'd gone through over $200 million because he built a company called X.com, which was bought out by the company that eventually became PayPal. That was his original success story. I think he made a couple $100 million, a lot of money. But he went through all that money in Tesla because they just could not make a profit. But he never gave up. Look, guys, I know a lot of you are going through a lot of stuff. I get it. And these stories may sound just too sensational, but they're important to talk about because whether the stakes are high or low on the money does not matter. It's the same idea. Your goals are no different than their goals. These are people that are struggling just like you are. The difference was they did not give up. You can't give up. You just stay the course. Now you give up, when you die, you die. But until you die, you got to keep swinging the axe and keep trying. Breaking news.
Yes. Story popped up that said Generation Z shockingly admits they don't know how to change a light bulb in startling new poll. It says
God.
that the ability to do basic practical tasks is being lost among younger generations.
Wow.
So they said that they haven't had to do a lot of things for themselves. So that's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
And getting back to basics and learning how to be independent and survive on your own is super, super important.
That reminds me of another quick story. One of my customers today and I were talking. I've known this guy for a long time. He's just a very generous guy, very gracious guy. We talk on the phone, and he make a long story short, he's 85 years old. He can barely walk. He uses a cane. He falls quite often. He's got cancer and he's got a bad heart. And we were talking on the phone today, and he said, Ron, I have kind of reached a point where, maybe enough's enough. And he said it would probably not hurt my feelings. And he was saying this with humor. It probably would not hurt my feelings if I just didn't wake up in the morning. And because he was saying it in such a humorous way, I responded. I said, maybe you're right. And he laughed and I laughed. But I'm sure deep down inside, he didn't really, I'm sure he doesn't want to die. But at the same time, when you reach a point where you're struggling that much, I'm sure death looks pretty good. But I say all that to say this. we don't know how good we got it. We may have a bad day. We got a flat tire. We got to take our car to the shop and spend thousands of dollars to fix it. We might have an argument with our wife or our kids, but you know what? Nothing compared to what this guy's going through. He would gladly trade us for what we're going through. So you have to think about that. Back to self-talk, and remind yourself how lucky you really are if you've got your health, if you got a roof over your head, you got transportation, you got food in your stomach. You're doing pretty damn good, guys. Just to make the point.
Today is World Cancer Day, just to add to that.
Wow.
So, some of us have experienced that or have friends or know people that have,
Yes.
and some don't. So it's also National Cherry Pie Day.
Oh, well, let's talk about that.
And on this cool day today, it's also National Homemade Soup Day. So
We got to have soup.
soup's good.
I was
good for
watching.
the soul.
I was watching a Seinfeld episode, which a lot of people may not know who that is. But comedian. There was a show on TV called this. Was it just called Seinfeld? I think
It was Seinfeld.
Yeah, Seinfeld.
Yeah.
So anyway, the guy, the show, the star, he was a comedian, and it was all about him and his life in New York City. But at any rate, they go to this delicatessen, and they call this guy the soup Nazi. That's the guy that was behind the counter, and I'm not sure what country he's from, but he's got an accent. And if you didn't talk to him just right, you didn't get your soup. He would say, "Out! No soup for you today." Called the soup Nazi. I'll never forget that. Back to soup. Yeah, and it was dry humor.
Yeah.
My favorite thing.
Yep.
Well, any words of wisdom before we get out of here?
No, today's a wonderful day. It's good to be alive. Good to see you again, Ron.
Good to see you again, sir.
Just glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, guys,
Oh, Valentine's Day's coming up.
Valentine's Day.
So do something nice for your sweetie.
Yes. And if you don't have a sweetie, just go out and find one. Give somebody that you haven't met before Valentine's.
Be
Make her
kind
day.
to others.
Yeah, be kind to others.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go out and find someone.
Find somebody, and just walk up to this Happy Valentine's Day, and they'll go, "What?"
Yep.
Some people will probably take offense to that instead of like, "Thank you," but that's okay too. Look, you can't push a rope. People are just going to be who they are. And some people are going to take you and like you, and other people are going to find you to be whatever. And you know what? That's okay. Stay true to yourself, guys. Don't give up. Stay true to your goals. Stay true to yourself. Follow the rules. It's not that complicated. And just remember, if you don't give up, eventually the stars are going to line up. We talked about it all day today. And it's just the way it is, man. It's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's better when it's difficult because you feel better about yourself when you are able to overcome those difficulties. So when you have a bad day, just remind yourself that that's okay. It's good to test yourself to see what you're made of, that you can eventually get better and better and better at managing uncomfortableness, because that's going to be the way it's going to be quite often, particularly in today's world. There's going to be more and more of that. All right, guys. Well, until that time, just remember, keep your head up and stay positive.